There is a very specific, um, incredibly common moment that I think every single person listening to this right now has probably experienced.
Oh, I'm sure they have.
Right. So picture this. It's late at night. The house is completely quiet. You are exhausted, but you just can't sleep. So you're scrolling on your phone.
The classic midnight doom scroll.
Exactly. And there it is, a video with a title screaming something like, apply this one rule and your life will change forever.
Or like become a completely new version of yourself in just 7 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sounds so incredibly appealing in that moment, right? It's laid out in these perfect bite-sized steps. And honestly, you want to believe it so badly.
Well, of course you do. We all do.
So you watch it, you take notes, you try it out the very next morning. And here's the craziest part. For the first few days, you actually feel it working.
You do. You get this massive rush of motivation.
Yeah, you feel like, finally, I have grabbed the steering wheel of my life.
It's an intoxicating rush, honestly. That initial surge isn't just about the habit itself. It's the sheer psychological relief of feeling like you have control over your own destiny.
But then, the inevitable happens, and it's almost never some massive tragedy that knocks you off course.
Right. It's usually just mundane.
It's just a Tuesday, a normal, boring Tuesday. You didn't sleep well, you lose focus during a boring meeting, you snap at your partner over whose turn it is to empty the dishwasher.
The dishwasher argument gets us all.
It really does.
Yeah.
And you completely abandon whatever new morning routine you were trying to build, and in a split second, that entire illusion of control just shatters.
Totally.
All those feelings of, I'm finally getting better, they just evaporate. And you're left staring at the ceiling thinking, what did I do wrong?
Am I just fundamentally broken?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did I not try hard enough? And that heavy sinking guilt just sends you right back to the beginning of the loop, scrolling for a new video, a new framework, a new promise.
It operates like a perpetual motion machine of modern self-improvement. The system is designed so that there's always a fresh, shiny promise waiting to catch you the moment the previous fails.
That exhausting cycle is exactly why we're dedicating this deep dive to a philosophy that takes a completely opposite approach. Stoicism.
A very misunderstood philosophy, I might add.
Totally. Which is why we need to establish a major boundary right up front. We are not talking about the pop culture, heavily filtered, use this ancient mindset to crush your sales goals version of Stoicism.
Right, the life hack version.
Yeah, true Stoicism. As we are exploring it today in our sources, it offers absolutely zero promises. It doesn't guarantee you a successful career.
It definitely doesn't promise you'll be happy or rich.
No. In fact, it very bluntly tells you that you are going to lose things you love, people are going to profoundly disappoint you, and, well, eventually you are going to die.
On the surface, it sounds like literally the most unappealing sales pitch in human history.
Right. It actively strips away every comfortable assurance we look for when we seek out guidance.
It is the ultimate anti-hack.
So the mission for us today is to figure out this paradox. If Stoicism sounds this bleak, and if it explicitly refuses to promise you a better life, why has it survived for millennia?
That is the big question.
And why is it the exact thing that people inevitably drag themselves back to when all those shiny self-improvement promises leave them completely empty?
To unpack that paradox, we actually have to look at the root mechanics of human nature. Like, why are we so vulnerable to that late-night self-help trap to begin with?
Right. What's driving that?
It stems from a very healthy, very natural instinct. As human beings, we simply want to suffer less today than we did yesterday.
I mean, that makes total sense. Nobody wants to wake up, look in the mirror, and think, boy, I really hope today is significantly worse and more painful than yesterday.
Exactly. We possess this innate drive to secure our environment, to find stability, and to feel a sense of forward momentum. We are wired for progress.
Okay, so where does it go wrong?
The danger is when that natural desire to improve subtly mutates into a rigid expectation. This is the fatal flaw in how we operate.
Expectation.
Yeah. We start taking our actions and permanently fusing their value to the outcomes they produce.
Give me an example of that.
Well, if we try a new diet and lose weight, we tell ourselves we are good, disciplined people.
Right.
But if we put in the work and the scale doesn't move, we immediately conclude that we're failures. We stop just trying to improve, and we start demanding that our actions are rewarded by the universe.
Wait, I have to push back here. Because on the surface, tying your action to a result isn't just logical, it's literally how the world works.
Okay, how so?
Well, if I go to the gym and lift heavy things, I fully expect to get stronger. If I stay late at my job, take on extra projects, and work my absolute tail off, I think to myself, I deserve recognition for this.
Right?
I earned a promotion. Are you saying that basic cause and effect mindset is wrong?
According to the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, yes. That mindset is the exact architecture of your suffering.
Wow. Seriously?
Seriously. Epictetus points out a remarkably harsh reality. You do not control the results. You can control your preparation, you can execute the work flawlessly, but you have zero sovereignty over the surrounding circumstances.
So I can do everything perfectly right, and the outcome can still be totally wrong.
Exactly. You don't control the macroeconomic environment. You don't control your boss's mood. You certainly don't control the opinions of your peers, and you do not control blind luck.
That is deeply frustrating.
It is, and that disconnect is where the pain lives. Epictetus argues that we don't actually suffer because of the events themselves.
Okay, then what do we suffer from?
We suffer because of our rigid expectations of how those events should have unfolded. When you work that extra 20 hours a week and nobody even says thank you, you feel this agonizing sense of injustice.
Oh, absolutely. You feel completely cheated.
But pay close attention to that feeling. You aren't feeling bad because the quality of your work was poor. You feel bad because reality refused to honor this hidden contract you quietly drafted in your own head.
Ah, the hidden contract. I put in X amount of suffering, therefore the universe owes me Y amount of reward.
Yes, we constantly try to bribe reality. And the entire modern self-help industry is built on validating and encouraging that exact contract.
Right, they tell you, do these 3 specific things, wake up at 5 a.m., take cold showers, and you will get this specific promotion.
Exactly. But Stoicism refuses to sign that contract. It forces you to interact with reality as it actually exists, not the sanitized version you feel you're owed.
It goes deeper than that, though, doesn't it? Because it's not just an internal problem. It feels like this pressure to constantly optimize ourselves. It's just in the air we breathe.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Why is the pressure so intense to treat ourselves like constant renovation projects?
That brings us to how society takes this natural human desire and weaponizes it. We can look at a whole roster of thinkers from our sources who diagnose the mechanics of this trap.
Let's get into it. Who's first?
Well, the sociologist Max Weber explored how the Industrial Revolution didn't just change factories, it changed our souls.
That is a heavy statement.
It is. He argued modern society is entirely organized around the principle of efficiency. Under this framework, you are no longer viewed as a human being simply experiencing life.
What are you then?
You're effectively a project, or like a portfolio that must be continuously maximized for yield.
That makes so much sense. You aren't allowed to just exist on a Saturday afternoon anymore.
Exactly.
If you're resting, it has to be, active recovery so you can be more productive on Monday.
Right. The need to be in development is relentless. And the philosopher Michel Foucault explains how this pressure is enforced.
How so?
He analyzed the mechanics of modern power, noting that society doesn't usually force you to conform with direct violence. Instead, it creates an environment where you enthusiastically police yourself.
Self-policing.
Yeah. Foucault used the concept of the panopticon. It's a prison design where the inmates can't see the guards, so they behave perfectly just in case they're being watched.
Oh.
And social media is our modern panopticon. You look around, you see the standards of fitness, wealth, and productivity constantly rising on your feed. And you voluntarily put yourself under immense, crushing pressure so you don't fall behind.
So you become your own most tyrannical manager.
Exactly.
It's like we internalize the pressure so deeply we think it's our own idea. We live by these insane benchmarks without even realizing someone else invented them.
You are describing exactly what the sociologist Pierre Bourdieu called invisible standards.
Invisible standards. I like that.
These are the unwritten rules of what constitutes a good or successful life. Because they are invisible, we just don't question them.
We just accept them as the laws of physics.
Yes, and we exhaust ourselves trying to measure up. And then Albert Camus adds the final lock on this trap.
What did Camus say?
He noted that we are living in a modern world that lacks inherent, prepackaged meaning. So in the absence of a grand cosmic purpose, society steps in and offers us alternative meanings to keep us busy.
And I'm guessing the most pervasive alternative meaning available today is the endless crusade of being your best self.
Nailed it. It's an exhausting crusade.
Here is where I want to introduce an analogy. Because listening to this, it sounds like we've basically turned ourselves into smartphone software.
Oh, I like where this is going.
We treat ourselves like we constantly need the next patch to fix our bugs, you know? Version 2.0 was great last year, but now everyone else is on version 2.1. So if I don't upgrade, I'm obsolete.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. And the cruelest part of software updates is that they're designed with planned obsolescence.
Right.
Version 2.1 is mathematically engineered to eventually feel slow and outdated, so you're forced to buy version 3.0. Being your best self is a moving target.
Because you can always be slightly more productive.
You can always be slightly healthier, slightly more mindful, which means by definition, you are engineered to be forever in a state of lack. You are never, ever enough.
And Stoicism is essentially the only philosophy that looks at that relentless upgrade cycle and completely opts out. It just refuses to sell you a patch.
Yes, which explains why people generally only turn to Stoic thought when they are completely burned out.
Yeah.
You have to be exhausted by the empty social promises first.
That exhaustion is a crucial threshold, because eventually the thrill of those software updates wears off and you hit a very specific wall.
You really do.
That brings us to a moment that I think perfectly grounds all this high-level philosophy. Imagine a totally normal day.
Okay, painting a picture here.
You do everything right. You wake up early, you skip the junk food, you stay incredibly disciplined at work, you don't lose your temper when someone cuts you off in traffic.
A perfect day.
You do everything the self-help books tell you to do. But at the end of the day, as you're lying in bed staring at the dark ceiling, you feel absolutely nothing.
Just blank.
Yeah. There's no grand reward waiting for you. There's no swelling background music. There's no tangible feeling of progress. Just a profound, heavy emptiness.
That emptiness is what we can call the existential dropping point. It is the exact second the illusion of your hidden contract breaks down.
You look at all your effort and you ask yourself, what am I actually doing all this for?
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
If the moment you realize the universe isn't keeping score of your good deeds, you're waiting for a paycheck that just isn't coming.
It's a huge letdown.
Jean-Paul Sartre described this terror beautifully. He said, "We are thrown into freedom with no instruction manual."
I've always loved that phrasing, thrown into freedom.
Right. There's absolutely no cosmic guarantee that choosing the right path equals a positive outcome. We bear the entire crushing responsibility for our choices, but the universe remains entirely indifferent to them.
That indifference is the core of what Kema has called the absurd, isn't it?
Exactly. We scream out into the universe demanding order, fairness, and reward, and the universe just responds with deafening silence.
The psychological toll of that silence has got to be devastating.
Oh, it is. The author Fyodor Dostoevsky explored this relentlessly in his work. If you look at his novels, he often features highly rational, deeply principled characters who live by strict moral codes.
Right.
But when reality fails to reward their principled living, like when the corrupt villain prospers or the innocent suffer despite the hero's best efforts, these rational characters completely unravel.
It's to break.
They don't have a mental breakdown because life is physically hard. They break because they demanded that reality pay them back for their goodness, and reality simply refused.
They go bankrupt because they staked their entire sanity on that cosmic paycheck.
And this is the great turning point. The philosopher Nietzsche says we all eventually have to face this incredibly difficult, terrifying truth.
Which is?
There is no guaranteed reward for your virtue. And this is the exact intersection where Stoicism meets you.
It doesn't meet you when you're hyped up on coffee watching a motivational video.
No, it meets you at the dropping point in the dark. The ultimate question Stoicism asks is this: when the applause stops, when the external rewards completely vanish, and when doing the right thing gets you absolutely nowhere, will you still choose to hold your ground and live correctly?
Wait, I need to stop you there. I have to push back on behalf of anyone listening who is having a genuine existential crisis right now.
Fair enough, go for it.
If there is no hidden contract, if reality doesn't care if I'm good, and there is zero cosmic reward for my discipline, why shouldn't I just be incredibly selfish?
That is the logical next question.
Seriously, why not just sleep in, eat whatever junk I want, snap at my coworkers when I'm annoyed, and do whatever feels good in the immediate moment? If the universe doesn't care, why shouldn't I just give up and be free?
It is the most natural question to ask when you realize the contract is fake. But this is where we have to completely dismantle the illusion that giving up equates to freedom.
Dismantle it, because right now giving up sounds pretty relaxing.
I get it. Let's go back to Sartre. Sartre reminds us that you cannot escape choice. We are always choosing.
Even choosing not to choose is a choice.
Exactly. Even choosing to abandon your discipline is a choice. If you choose to just follow every passing impulse, you do not become a free, liberated spirit wandering the earth.
What do you become?
You actually become something incredibly fragile. You become a hostage to your own biology and to whatever external circumstances happen to bump into you that day.
So you don't become free, you just become a puppet to whoever cuts you off in traffic or whatever bad news you read on your phone.
Spot on. Epictetus gives a very stark warning about exactly this state of mind. He points out that if you refuse to rule yourself, the world will gladly step in and rule you for its own purposes.
That is a chilling thought.
If you abandon your discipline, your anger will control your actions. Advertisers will control your desires. The opinions of your neighbors will dictate your self-worth.
So discipline, in the Stoic sense, isn't about impressing the universe to earn a reward.
Not at all. It is about maintaining absolute sovereignty over your own mind so you aren't a slave to your environment.
The terrifying part of that is how subtle the loss of control is. Our sources bring in Seneca and Nietzsche to talk about what happens when we let go, and it's not some dramatic explosion, it's a slide.
The slide is insidious specifically because it is rarely cinematic. Seneca advises us that we don't practice living rightly so we can stand on a podium and receive a shiny medal at the end of our lives.
Why do we do it then?
We practice it so we don't have to live with the heavy accumulating toxin of regret.
Regret.
Yes, it's about avoiding the regret of the cruel words you snapped at your spouse in a moment of unchecked anger, or the small daily moments where you just surrendered your character to laziness.
It's the micro regrets, hitting snooze, sending that passive-aggressive email, telling the small lie to avoid a hard conversation.
Exactly. And Nietzsche observes that human beings almost never collapse in one massive, dramatic moment of moral failure.
Right.
They slide, step by step, inch by inch, day by day. They make one small concession here. They excuse a slight lack of emotional control there.
Just a little slip.
And those tiny surrenders accumulate like compound interest until one day, years later, they look in the mirror and genuinely do not recognize the stranger staring back at them.
Wow. That reframes Marcus Aurelius entirely for me.
How so?
Think about it. The Roman emperor, the guy who essentially ruled the known world, when he was writing his meditations by candlelight in a war tent, he wasn't practicing discipline to build a glorious, perfect best self.
No, his life was already chaotic.
Right. It was a nightmare of war, plague, and political betrayal. He was practicing discipline simply to stop himself from sliding into the darkness. He was just trying to hold the line.
That is the profound realization. Marcus Aurelius wasn't attempting to achieve a state of permanent bliss. He was holding the line.
Yeah.
He was actively working to ensure that the intense chaos and cruelty of his external world did not infect and corrupt his internal character.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? We need to bridge this from Roman war tents to the modern listener's life.
Let's do it.
How do you apply this without just becoming a numb, depressed cynic who thinks nothing matters?
The shift in your daily action is subtle, but the psychological relief is massive. The core Stoic strategy is this: you act, but you do not demand.
Act, but do not demand. Let's walk through exactly what that looks like in practice. Give me a scenario.
Okay, imagine you spend 3 weeks pouring your absolute soul into a massive presentation for your company. You work late, you refine every data point, you make it perfect.
I'm stressed just thinking about it.
Right. You walk into the boardroom, you deliver the presentation, and your boss spends the entire time looking at their phone, completely distracted. They offer you to thanks and move on.
Oh, man. The normal reaction to that is just crushing bitterness. You want to quit, you feel humiliated, you think, why did I even bother?
That is the pain of the hidden contract being broken. But the Stoic reaction is entirely different. Under the Stoic framework, you still do the work. You still prep the presentation flawlessly, but you do it for your own internal standard of excellence.
Because doing bad work reflects poorly on you, not them.
Exactly. You do it because being a person who does sloppy work degrades your character. You completely sever the link between the quality of your work and the expectation of your boss's applause.
So when they ignore you?
When they ignore you, it's unfortunate, but it doesn't destroy you because their validation was never the goal. You acted, but you didn't demand the reward.
That makes you entirely self-contained.
Nietzsche formulated a brilliant definition of ultimate strength based on this exact detachment.
What did he say?
He argued that a truly strong person is not someone who possesses the power to force the world to bend to their will. A truly strong person is someone who doesn't need the external world to change in order to maintain who they are.
Oh, wow. Their character stands independent of their circumstances.
Exactly.
They are completely weatherproof. It can be raining chaos or shining with success, and their internal thermostat stays exactly the same.
And Seneca reminds us that we don't actually need a better life in the way marketers sell it to us.
We don't need more status.
We don't need more luxury or perfectly optimized morning routines. What we desperately need is a way of living that we won't regret when the noise finally stops.
A way of living without regret.
Yes, the ultimate prize of the Stoic strategy is clarity. It's the quiet, unshakable satisfaction of knowing that you aren't hiding, you aren't running away from the difficulty of reality, and you are holding your ground, even if no one is ever going to give you a trophy for it.
It's being able to look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and actually respect the person looking back. So let's bring all this home and recap the journey, because it really flips the script on everything we are taught by modern culture.
It really does.
Stoicism isn't a life hack. It's not a productivity system to make you a CEO. It doesn't fix your external life at all. What it does is fix your expectations of life.
Which changes everything.
Right. When you finally stop demanding that reality hand you a paycheck for every good thing you do, reality suddenly loses its power to break your heart.
The pain of the event will still be there, but the massive, exhausting weight of the secondary suffering is completely removed.
You're still going to face terrible failures. You're going to face devastating loss. You're going to have exhausting, unfair days at work.
That's just life.
But you will no longer suffer the agonizing secondary pain of thinking, this shouldn't be happening to me. I followed the rules. I bought the software update. Why is this happening? You just tear up the hidden contract.
And that leads directly to the question our deep dive sources leave us with. It is a heavy, clarifying question posed at the very end of the analysis.
Let's hear it.
If life never gets materially better, would you still choose to live the way you were trying to hold on to right now?
Wow. If it never gets better, do you still choose this? That is profound, and I want to build on that with a final lingering thought for you to take into the rest of your day. Think about your biggest goal right now. The thing you're stressing over, the project you're losing sleep for, the milestone you're chasing. Got it. Okay. If you knew for an absolute mathematical fact that achieving that goal would yield exactly 0 external rewards, no extra money, no praise from your peers, absolutely no change in your social status, would you still pursue it?
That is a tough question.
It is. If the answer is no, you might just be chasing a society-imposed expectation. You might be running on that panopticon treadmill. But if the answer is yes, if you would do it anyway, in the dark, with absolutely no applause, you have just found something truly worth your time. Good luck exploring that, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.